I'm Russell Beard in the Netherlands to meet a group of architects who believe that building waste is just bad design.
And I'm Tamara Schuard in Australia's far north, where scientists are hoping the lure of love will prove fatal to one of the world's most destructive invasive species.
And I'm Guillory Darabi at the construction site of the world's largest fusion reactor to find out just how close we are to replicating the power source of the sun here on Earth.
The manufacturing and construction sectors place a heavy burden on our environment through the use and transportation of raw materials alone, while here in Europe they contribute over half of total waste generated. I'm Russell Beard and I've come to the port city of Rotterdam in the Netherlands to meet a team of resourceful architects who are using clever design to reduce our use of natural resources and save energy.
One of the first concepts we came up with was superuse, and it's a way of dealing with waste materials other than recycling. We tried to find materials as locally as possible, so to minimize the amount of transport. Recycling also takes a lot of energy.
So it's almost like the material comes before the design in a sense.
Yeah, the material influences the design, and the design influences what we try to find. A good example, for instance, is this, a tip of a large windmill wing. Just in Holland, 200 each year are wasted, and they are like have a span of 1.20 meters by 30 meters long. Wow. And this is a material that no one knew what to do with, but we found a very good application to turn it into a playground for kids.
Key to the 2012 architect's mission is the Harvest Map, a map of potential resources located as near as possible to the construction site. So what else have we got here? I mean, that looks like airplane seats. Seats from an airplane.
Right. That's right, airplane seats. Mm-hmm. You have to sit, sometimes look quite long to one film, a movie, mm-hmm. and these chairs are very good suited to sit a long time in, so it's nice to be reused as the seats for the cinema. And now we are here,
okay.
So we have to travel a straight line.
Okay, perfect. Wow.
Hello.
Hi, how are you, Russell? Taco's saying that these things are 34 years old. They've been up there for 34 years, and we're saving them from going straight into landfill and hopefully giving them another 34 years of life as insulated wall panels.
Well, I'm a project manager, so I guide the process of refurbishing. So once in a while I call them up and say, hey, I got a problem, or I've got a problem and you have new material.
Yeah. I mean, this is just beautiful. It's 32 years old, but it could be new.
Flawless.
It's much more beautiful than the stuff they use these days.
I mean,
in another project, how could you imagine using something like this?
It's really good for cladding everywhere. You can make shelves out of it. I mean, bookshelves. You can make things where transparency is important, because if you take out the back, you get a very nice transparent effect. So it could be like screening for something, mm-hmm. for windows even, sun screening.
This is about as good as it gets, isn't it? I mean, how far are we? We're less than a mile away from the next destination.
That's right.
And these really aren't being changed at all. The only thing that's changing is the purpose. It's almost like you're making good use of the things that you find. You know, things that most everyday folks leave behind. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
It needs a bit of soft touch.
Yeah. Yeah, soft touch, okay. Oops. Come on, it's got to be done right, jeez. That's all right, that's not going anywhere.
It's a quality, though.
That's all right.
Next, let's meet HAJO. He's the director of DOORN.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. This is our multifunctional space. Mm-hmm. We can do concerts, film screenings, and the floor is made of Trespa, which is a material that is used for desktops. And
desktops? So all of this flooring used to be desktops in a bank?
Yes, yeah, in a really big bank. Yeah.
I love
now it's
that.
a dance
That's
floor.
amazing.
Yeah. To dance on the cries as well.
Actually, we have one original version standing over there. This is the desktop. So this is the same color. And this is sanded out. So that is what we did with it. And then this becomes really a good surface for dancing.
The lamps, they are also reused. They are used in ships to give into the machine room to say, hey, stop, go forward or go left or right. The rolling shelves. And this used to be an archive. And we use the archive itself. And so you can make longer chairs or shorter chairs.
You can even sit on it.
You can sit on it if you want, so like this. And then you can move it because it can hold thousands of kilos. We didn't know when we were starting how it would look like in the end. And that's a very dynamic way of dealing with the architects.
This is a perfect client for our approach, I would say, because you need to let it grow in a way as a process.
And it is just fun to do it, you know, and to be environmental friendly in that sense doesn't have to mean you being boring, you know.
2012's most ambitious project to date is the Villa Velpelu, a temple to superuse and the first project of its kind. But having a home built almost entirely out of waste didn't faze the clients.
Because they were very serious architects, and I thought there should come something beautiful out of it. The work of the carpenter, this wood, is all reused. Colorful.
So what, billboards that you would see just on the side of the road?
The whole house is made from an iron construction, and these are parts of an old textile machine.
Earlier, this area was famous for its textiles, fabrics. So a lot of textile machines are still there unused.
And they make it from the
cable.
Oh, yes.
From
the cable spools.
Yeah.
Now your neighbours, they're not talking. Oh, did you see her? She lives in a house made out of rubbish. Oh, my goodness.
I'm proud of it.
Yes. There must have been some problems along the way when you're building a house out of waste materials.
Of course there were some problems. The first day, let me be honest, the first day I came in the house, I thought, why didn't they paint this side from the cupboards? They see that it is renewed. They should have painted it.
Oh, from the billboard.
Yeah, from the billboards. And now I'm so happy that you see the real billboards.
Do you think it's possible that this new model of construction could become the norm?
Yeah.
Do you think it could?
If everybody turns a button in his mind, it is possible. You make your money from your product and you give back to the world your waste, but in a good way.
Poisonous and predatory, the cane toad is the eco-scourge of Australia. First introduced to combat agricultural pests, the toad has become a menace in itself, wreaking havoc on this country's fragile ecosystems and ravaging native wildlife. I'm Tamara Seward in Northern Australia, not far from where 102 cane toads were first brought into this country and released in 1935. Introducing the South American cane toad to Australia to eat sugarcane beetles was one of the most disastrous environmental mistakes in the country's history. Since their release nearly 80 years ago, they have conquered 1 million square kilometres of territory. There are now more than 200 million cane toads in Australia. That's about 10 per person. It's not hard to understand why toad-busting militia groups have sprung up all around Australia. Anti-toad activists conduct border controls and night patrols to protect suburbs like this from the attack of the toads.
We caught them just over there, just basically because they prefer a damp habitat but not wet like frogs do. So yeah, that's where we found them and we're hoping to catch more.
I know, I'm scared one's gonna hop up my leg. When the sun goes down in Townsville, the whole community is at war with the nocturnal amphibian. This puffy bit that's popping in and out, that's their belly?
Yep, that's the stomach.
But these sort of sacs here, these kind of squishy sacs, that's where all the poison lives.
Yep. it is advisable to wear gloves just in case they excrete poison from the poison glands behind their eyes, but it is quite unlikely unless you cheese them off quite a lot.
Oh, I've got one! I've got one! Okay, so I finally caught myself a toad. It's not a very big one, but it's still really gross. I can feel it pulsating in my hands. So he's really not the most attractive fellow I've ever laid eyes on. Oh, yeah! He's really going wild.
Female cane toads lay around 20,000 eggs in one sitting, and the species is poisonous from tadpole to adult. There have been countless unsuccessful attempts at eradication, but now science may have come up with a very simple and practical way of winning the war by appealing to the toad's incredible sex drive.
What is this toad doing?
Okay, this toad is producing venom. That's the venom coming out there, that sort of milky substance that it's producing. If you're a predator trying to eat them, they will produce this substance. It's extremely poisonous. It's full of something called bufotoxins, and they're special to toads, and they're really, really toxic, so they will kill a large vertebrate very easily.
Dr. Lynn Schwarzkopf has been working on a new trap that specifically targets reproductive females and increases their capture rate by up to 300%.
What it does is two things. It has a light on the side of it, which you can see here, and a call, which you can hear right now. The light attracts insects, which is food for the toads, and that attracts both males and females into the traps. The innovative and new part of this trap is that it also produces sound. So this has speakers on it, and the speakers produce a call that male toads make to attract females into the trap, so that we capture females with eggs and remove them from the environment before they lay their eggs. Female amphibians in general are quite choosy. They don't like the call of any old male. They like the call to be sort of deep voiced.
Sort of, you know,
That's
big
right.
guy, deep voice,
Yeah,
soul
deep
singer
voice. Yes,
sort of
that's
thing.
right.
It's really like a bit of a toad disco.
Andrew Hannay is environmental manager for the Townsville City Council.
So the toads were originally introduced to Queensland, but then over time they've steadily moved, and they've moved through into the Northern Territory, and now they're even starting to get through into the border of Western Australia. The reality is there's basically an army of 200 million of these little amphibians out there in our environment that the native wildlife see as little bags of food. All it takes is for them to eat one of these and they can die. So they're really having a devastating effect on our local biodiversity. So even a wildlife sanctuary like this one isn't immune to the devastation from a cane toad.
Unfortunately, Billabong Sanctuary lost a female cassowary, Charlie. We came in one morning and she passed away, and it was revealed that she'd actually ingested a cane toad, and the poison they carry was sufficient enough to actually kill her. And I think we've got, you know, cassowaries being a very ancient bird, who've been around for millions and millions of years, aren't immune to an animal that's only been in Australia for the last sort of 70 years. But we've had to go through and retrofit a lot of our enclosures with some smaller gauge chicken wire to prevent even small toadlets getting into our enclosures. We just don't want to run the risk of any toad really getting in there and us losing another cassowaries.
We're just trying to get out a very large estuarine crocodile from this pond here, and I'm terrified. Whoa! 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 Oh my God. Whoa. That guy is humongous. Can I move over here? So I understand cane toads are a threat to cute, cuddly, small animals like the northern quoll and some birds and the like, but cane toads threaten that beast there.
Yeah, so what we're looking at there is, you know, the world's largest living reptile in the estuarine crocodile. And these guys do suffer at the hands of cane toads as well. Not all estuarine crocodiles are that size. They do stay out a lot smaller. And so a part of their diet when they are smaller is amphibians. We do find that cane toads are a problem for estuarine crocodiles and also freshwater crocodiles, which is the other species. The mind boggles when you think about the world's largest living reptile succumbing to a cane toad, the size of the palm of your hand.
So just one cane toad can bring down this guy. How much would he weigh?
You're looking at probably 450, 500 kilos of crocodile there.
That's 500 kilograms of croc, versus 1.3 kilograms of lovely poisonous toad. It's nighttime, and once again, the cane toads come out to play. But this time, they've fallen prey to Lynn's trap.
Well, that is quite a good haul for an evening, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not bad.
What do you reckon, about 40, 50?
Yeah, something like that, 45 toads.
We were catching some toads by hand before. How does this compare with that?
Well, it's a lot easier to catch toads this way. You don't need to have a whole group of kids organized. You don't have to brief them on how to do it, and you don't have to go out personally and pick them up. People might put it in the back corner of their garden, and that would remove toads from their garden regularly. People could put it out in city parks and gardens. Places like wildlife parks have been very interested in using them, and places like islands where you might be able to eradicate toads completely.
So with these toads here, we've removed about 50. So we've only got about 100,900,050 left to go.
That's right, that's
okay.
right.
Well, this is a pretty good start.
Physicists joke that nuclear fusion is the power source of the future, and always will be. However, a new international collaboration is underway to make nuclear fusion a reality.
This is the site of ITER, a reactor that will one day recreate the process that powers the sun here on Earth.
Hi. So I've heard this is the biggest science project in the world. Is that true?
If it is not the biggest, it will be very near the biggest, involving, of course, also very large amount of money.
So in your opinion, why is fusion power worth all this construction?
It promises to be one of the cleanest energy sources that you can think of. We do not have, like in the other nuclear plants, that the core of the machine, the fuel rods and so on, stay radioactive for hundreds of thousands of years. Yeah, and you have to bury them deeply somewhere. This is not the case with fusion.
So this site before us really could be the solution to the world energy crisis.
Absolutely. At present, there are several around the world that are in operation. And so this is, I think, unique about ITER, that it is a considerable step forward, and then the next step really is building power stations. I think it's certainly true that this will be a very great thing for mankind when we can make it happen.
The ITER reactor will not be turned on for at least another 10 years. In the meantime, there's much research to be done to make sure it works. The jet reactor in the UK is one of several sites around the world where pioneering scientists are working hard to understand how to create a self-sustaining fusion reaction, a reaction that gives out more energy than it takes in. This is how it works. An atom of hydrogen is made up of one positively charged proton and one negative electron. It also has two variants or isotopes, deuterium, which has one proton and one neutral neutron. Tritium has two neutrons. In a fusion reaction, deuterium and tritium fuse to form a helium atom and a high-speed neutron, the same reaction that powers the sun. In a commercial fusion power station, the high-speed neutrons will be slowed down by a denser material surrounding the reaction. This slowing releases heat, which in turn produces steam to drive electric turbines.
But sadly, it's not quite that simple. To achieve reaction rates high enough to create a self-sustaining reaction, the two types of hydrogen must be heated to 100 million degrees Celsius and contained at the right density. These conditions occur in the fourth state of matter known as plasma, in which electrons are stripped from their atomic nuclei.
To keep the incredibly hot plasma from cooling, it mustn't come into contact with any material surfaces. Therefore, it needs to be contained inside a very powerful magnetic field. That's where a reactor, known as a tokamak, comes in.
Hi, Hillary.
Good afternoon.
Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you. Welcome at JET, in this place where you will discover, I think, what nuclear fusion is.
So this is where fusion takes place?
This is where fusion takes place.
And here at the Joint European Tours, we can find the largest tokamak in the world?
It is the largest tokamak in the world, and of course we are building another one which is even larger in Cadarache, in south of France.
So where we are standing right now, is this where fusion would take place?
Yes, in the middle. Typically in the middle, this is where it takes place.
And are we talking 100 million degrees centigrade?
We are, yes.
The main torus in ITER will be much larger than this one?
Much larger, yes. Twice as high and twice as large, so the volume will be 10 times larger.
The process of heating the hydrogen fuel to a plasma, hot enough to achieve a fusion reaction, is known as a shot.
We're with Emmanuel and his team at the control room at JET. They're just about to launch a shot. Just a couple technical difficulties, but I'm really hoping they figure it out because I'm dying to see this. So how did this last shot go?
We're not very good.
It isn't easy, is it?
It's not easy. Some magnetic sensors are failing.
Normally we'd go on to about 60 seconds with a shot today, but it's cutting out.
It doesn't look like you're giving up, though.
No, we're here. We're here to the end. We're not gonna give up.
It's amazing how dedicated everybody here is in the control room. Yes, we just fired a shot. Yes, it was unsuccessful, but that isn't stopping anybody.
In order to produce a plasma shot, JET uses 600 megawatts of power, thousands of components, and billions of brain cells. There's a lot that can go wrong.
For some reason, I'm really nervous. It hasn't been a very successful day, so I know there's a lot of pressure riding on this.
20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
No. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we have fusion. Finally. It was successful. Finally.
Yeah, finally.
Congratulations. How does it feel?
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a long day, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Long night. Well, you must be relieved now that you've been successful again.
Yes, a bit.
You're back on track?
We're more or less back on track.
Right. Thank you so much, Manuel.
Clearly, there's a lot more to do, but Emmanuel strongly believes that a fusion future is not too far away.
More than half and almost actually 3/4 of the energy on Earth is coming from fossil fuels. We know that we are creating irreversible effects to the climate. And so fusion is one of the solutions. We know that in the end, what we will produce is so important for the climate, for our children. I mean, the development of ITER is one example. We think the final solution for the development of diffusion energy. We think it's really worthwhile.
Wow.
Is it a horticulturalist's dream to work in this environment?
Well, you know what? The great benefit of having a closed structure like a greenhouse is you're able to control the climate, you can control the level of insects and diseases much better than you would with traditional farming.
How many are you selling per week?
A good average over the 12 months of the year is about 5,000 kilos a week.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. You know, we're looking at about 3.5 to 4 heads of tomato per square meter, and each one of those heads will produce one of these guys right here each week.